Welcome to another edition of FH&P Lawyers Law Talk. I'm Clay Williams. I'm a partner at FH&P, and this is our semi-regular show where we talk about different topics related to the legal field. Today we've got an interesting topic, and it's insurance denials, specifically in the travel insurance field. And with me, a repeat guest, and I'm really happy to have you, is Wendy Chung. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, I got to give you a really glowing introduction. So, one of the things that you've got that a lot of our lawyers don't have is a lot of extra credentials in mediation and arbitration. Is that right?
Yes. So in 2024, I obtained my Chartered Arbitrator designation through ADRIC, which is Alternative Dispute Resolution Institute of Canada. It's a mouthful. And then in 2025, I received my Qualified Mediator designation from the same institution.
Okay, so thank you for coming on the show. And of course, today, the reason I asked you to come on the show is you've had some real success in travel insurance denials. And so for our listeners, for anybody who's gone on a trip, you've probably bought travel insurance because we all have heard the horror stories about, being hurt or suffering some kind of medical event in a foreign country, particularly the USA, and not having coverage. So most people will have some kind of coverage. They might have it through their group insurer. They might buy it by extra or on its own. But most people have some kind of travel insurance. And so when an event happens, sometimes the insurance company doesn't pay. And so then what happens?
Well, when we buy travel insurance, we see it as a form of kind of like a security blanket, like a fire extinguisher. You hope you will never need it, but you buy it with some comfort. I mean, the last thing that anybody wants when they travel is to get hurt or get sick to the point where you have to seek medical aid. And I think living in Canada, we're so blessed because we do have free medical coverage. And so it's a big shock to people when they travel and they have to see a doctor, the big bills that come with it. I was on a cruise recently and my son had strep throat and we had to see a doctor on a cruise ship, and his antibiotics alone were $300.
Was this an American cruise ship?
This was, we were on international waters, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think we were in the middle of, the Japan Sea or something like that. But it's a shock, when these bills come in. And so travel medical insurance is one of those things where you buy it and you don't think about it. You have that security blanket and it makes you at peace.
And a lot of the claims that we're seeing, the denials, aren't that
$300.
Yeah. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars, particularly for heart attacks and strokes.
Yes.
That might happen for people that are traveling. It's
absolutely
really expensive.
We are looking at high 5 digits, 6-digit figures for medical expenses. And so, when you do come back to Canada and you try to make a claim to get those expenses covered through your travel insurer, the last thing you would expect is for them to say no.
And why? So this is a great story, and it's one I've seen. It's kind of something that seems to have happened, for a long time. Is that when you try and get your expenses covered, an insurance company might do what?
Well, let's go back to when you were applying for the travel medical insurance. Right. You fill out an application form, right? And there is usually a questionnaire that asks you about your medical history. It's usually in non-medical terms. They're pretty broad questions. And there's a checkbox where you answer yes or no. And you try to think about your medical history when you answer your questions. Did I have certain types of medical disorders in the past X number of years? You check yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, based on your knowledge of your own medical history.
And what you remember, I guess.
Exactly.
And what the doctor tells you,
Exactly.
What you remember about what the doctor tells you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And if you happen to get one of those check marks incorrect, and it is discovered when you do go make a claim for coverage, what the insurer could do is go back to your historical medical records to see if you answered your questions correctly when you first applied for the insurance. And if they find something to say, oh, your answer's incorrect because we found in your medical records years ago that there was a statement that you had this condition, then they can completely deny you of the coverage.
In fact, that's the process, isn't it?
Yes.
You submit your claim for expenses,
Yes.
and they say, okay, send us an authorization, and we're going to get your medical records, and we'll let you know. And then somebody's looking through all of these medical records to see if there's anything there. So.
Yes. And so let me ask you, Clay, when you go see your GP for any reason, whether it's a checkup or for a specific reason, do you ever ask for a copy of the doctor's notes as they're sitting there typing into their computer? Do you ever ask to see what they've typed in, or do you just walk out of the clinic and...
You're absolutely right. And you know, historically, I've done quite a bit of personal injury law. And so, you know, I'm very familiar with reading clinical records and, you know, looking at the notes that doctors make. And doctors are human beings. Doctors make mistakes.
Sure.
Doctors, you know, might write something that they haven't told you. It happens all the time, you know, so I'm very familiar with that. So.
Exactly. So you don't know what's in your notes. You don't know, I don't know what's in my notes from the doctor's visit that I had 5 years ago. He or she may have written something in complete medical terminology that I wouldn't understand anyways, even if I were to read it. And years later, I go apply for travel insurance. I hit checkbox no when it asked me if I've had any liver issues, let's say. And as it turns out, if there was some sort of notation made in my historical medical records that suggests that I may have had, let's say, liver issues, well, I could be disqualified for coverage because I answered a question incorrectly, not knowing that I answered it incorrectly.
And this is common. This is common stuff, you know, and it's something that we deal with quite a bit, and you more than me. So what? Now you've just had a case, and you know, we've discussed that, and we're not going to discuss it in detail. But at the end of the day, you were successful in having an insurance company pay. How many figures?
Six figures.
Figures. Like
Six figures.
If they hadn't paid that, the poor person that had the medical issue probably would have been bankrupt.
Out of pocket, 6 figures for a 1-month trip that this individual took for fun. I mean, a trip that may have cost him $10,000 in flights and hotel just turned into a 6-figure trip. And so what happened in this case was exactly that. There was a medical episode that occurred while he was out of the country. He sought medical assistance and came home and had a 6-figure bill from American medical institutions. He tried to claim coverage, and it was denied based on a tracing of historical medical notes, which said that he had something. It was suggested that he had an episode of something.
Well, wasn't it like one line?
It was 3 words.
3 words.
3 words.
Yep. So
it was 3 words.
I just can't get over how 3 words.
Right. From years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was
communicated to him.
I think it was 3 years ago from these notes.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you answered this question incorrectly. You said that you didn't have this. And as it turns out, it was suggested in these notes that you did. And so we're going to deny your coverage. And so what we did was we went back to we did read his medical records, and we followed up with the various doctors that have seen this individual, and we tracked down what these 3 words meant. Now, we're not doctors, but I always enjoy files where I get to step outside the shoes of being a lawyer and get to learn about another topic area. That's always a lot of fun. And so in this case, I kind of played medical student and did medical 101 by talking to various doctors in this very specific field, and learned about what all this medical terminology meant. And even at the end, I really didn't understand. You know, doctors write, I feel like they write in a whole other language. I mean, you just don't understand what these words mean.
You know, lay people say that we do the same thing.
Well, absolutely. What happened here was we really needed to understand what was the medical diagnosis that happened then and has happened since. And we contacted the doctors and asked them to explain. I think I talked to one doctor and I said, please explain this to me as if I was 5 years old. And he explained it to me in very simple language. And I said, can you please put that in a letter? Can you please put that into notes that is digestible by people like us and hopefully digestible by the insurance company? And that's exactly what we did. Once we got this letter that was a little bit more understandable by the layperson, and the interesting, I think, approach we did was we didn't really challenge the insurance company's position. I think at first blush, as lawyers, we're generally we're adversarial, and we'll come in from a very aggressive approach, and we'll say, here's all the things that you did wrong. So in this case, it was reverse your denial. We approached them with a bit of a more, we don't think you're understanding the medical terminology, just like us, but we think that we found a way for the terminology to be understood in a way where we think that the findings should be this, and that. And ultimately, the insurance company completely agreed with us. We did not even need to start any court proceedings. They gave us every dollar back.
Wrote a check, just like that.
Just like that. Yeah. And that's the importance of, considering how to negotiate in the steps that you take through to trial. Mm-hmm. And that negotiation aspect, how, again, you mentioned in the beginning, we work in a team. And I'm blessed to be in a litigation team where we do have various expertise levels and also various practice styles and personalities. Mm-hmm. One of the lawyers I work with here, Darren Couts, him and I have very different practice styles, but they work together really well. And in fact, I worked on this file with him, and it was a discussion of, well, should we take the approach, the honey approach, I'll call it, or the vinegar approach? And so when we get to come up with curated creative solutions for our clients, we get to implement them, and there's fruitful results when you really think about how you should treat a file.
And I should point out, these approaches aren't mutually exclusive.
No.
We've got different ways of trying to be successful for our clients.
Absolutely.
And so this is an example, I think, of, being successful using a different approach than just filing the lawsuit and alleging bad faith and, and off you go. Exactly. So I'm really happy with that story. But if it hadn't worked, there's another route to go.
Yeah.
And, we would have pursued that route too.
Absolutely.
But that's not to say that there wouldn't be a way to resolve it even during the adversarial route. So.
That's right. Between the stages of filing pleadings and going to discoveries and ultimately going to trial, all the steps in between mm-hmm. there should always be space for negotiation and resolution outside of court.
Now, we've talked about this in the context of travel insurance denials, but, I think that what our listeners, our mm-hmm. viewers, I guess now, mm-hmm. Would like to know about is we see a lot of insurance denials in general.
Oh, for sure.
And so some of those are very serious, like mm-hmm. Disability insurance mm-hmm. and life insurance as well. Mm-hmm. But from what I see, it's a lot of disability insurance mm-hmm. as well. Mm-hmm. And so, for our viewers, that is an approach that we'll take as well.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So keep that in mind. Now, is there anything else you want to talk about with respect to travel insurance?
Do buy it. It is important. I think we, since 2020, we travel a lot more. It is still an excellent product and service. And it is still a form of a security blanket, whether you buy it in addition to your travel plan or you already have it through, let's say, your insurer or group insurance. Mm-hmm. It is an excellent product. So don't not buy it because of this story. And when you're filling out the application form, maybe even at that point, you can maybe consult legal counsel to say, hey, I want to just make sure that I'm doing this correctly. And if there is a denial, well, you know who to call.
You know, as a final point, that's interesting what you said there, because, you know, at my age, I look forward to maybe retiring at one point, and not right away, so you can't have my job yet. But you know, I looked into what my wife's, as a teacher, her travel benefits she would get as a retired teacher. And it's interesting because it's a bucket. So if you suffered you do get travel insurance, but if you suffer an event, say in the United States, you only get so much money. And once that money's gone, then you can come back and you wouldn't get your glasses covered or stuff like that because you've used it all in one health event. So I think it's really important to know what you've got and whether you should, because I in that case, I'd probably want to buy some supplemental insurance so we don't dip into that lifetime bucket.
Exactly. Know what your policy covers. I mean, when is the last time we just randomly pulled up any sort of insurance policy to read the fine terms? I don't think any one of us.
Well, I
do
just
that regularly.
But,
okay, there you go.
You know, but that's not usual.
Yeah.
So in any event, this has been great. Thank you for coming on the show again.
It was my pleasure.
And hopefully our viewers got something out of that. Please do leave some comments. You can find our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So look forward to reading those comments, and we'll see you next time.